Just a few months on from his smash hit, The Next Generation animated, Justin T. Lee is back with another hit on his hands. Voyager gets the Filmation treatment, and Justin's here to dive into it.
This is a Trekzone conversation.
Well, if you haven't caught Voyager, the animated series, yet, you are missing out. Justin, welcome back to Trekzone, my friend.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me back.
Now, this is very, very cool. That episode of Voyager, it's almost a shall not be named episode, but you've chosen it. Why that one from 7 years of Voyager?
Okay, so I didn't even know I was going to make another one of these things. I wasn't sure. The Next Generation one was just, I think, as we talked about last time, it was just like something that had been rattling around in my brain for months, and I wanted to see what TNG would look like if it looked and felt like the animated series from the 70s. And then, of course, the thing actually did pretty well, and which was a total shock to me. And people enjoyed it, and I think people got what was rattling in my head, which was very kind of rewarding and cool to see people like you and people in the comments and everyone just kind of someone pointed out that it was like such a huge, almost entirely positive comment section on YouTube, which was really nice. Like everyone was just really having fun with it. So then I started to think, what if I did another one and it wasn't necessarily going to be Voyager and it wasn't necessarily going to be any particular show. I just started to think about what would be another cool thing to do this with. And that thought also went into the realm of like what actually already kind of felt like a cartoon, like what maybe should have been a cartoon all along. And so that is how I ended up doing Threshold. And to my great relief, because now there was a little bit of fan expectation and pressure, because like people knew I'd done one. When the second one came out, I was so relieved to see so many comments saying exactly that, going, "Oh, this episode always should have been a cartoon." It's like, and people were like, that was very rewarding because that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like space lizard babies. That's something that could have totally happened in TAS, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, having already done The Next Generation, did you have a workflow to follow now? Was it a little easier to make this one?
No. And the reason is because I set myself the same parameters as I did for the TNG one, which is I didn't want to cut down the audio, change the edit in any way. So I was locked. I don't know why I did this to myself, but I was locked into the time of the timing of what the episode, the way the episode played out. So I knew that I wanted to show Janeway as Janeway at the beginning. And so I had to start in the hallway where she's like walking in the hallway. And I knew I had to get all the way to the lizard babies. That's the part that feels like a short. So having established that was almost 6 minutes long, which is more than twice the length of the last one. This is all my own fault, Matt. Like if only I didn't have these kinds of. But then I set myself those limitations, and I think also I can't confirm this in any way, but I always wondered if TAS, the animated series from the 70s, was produced that way, where they actually made it like a radio play and did all the voices, which of course they would pre-record, but then also even put the music and the sound effects, because there are some. You've seen TAS, of course, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some bits, don't you think, where like the pacing's so strange, and they'll cut to a planet, and then it'll be like 10 seconds of nothing before people beam down or someone walks in. And so I almost like to carry that pacing and vibe. It felt right to go, okay, you've got this almost 6 minute chunk of audio. Now you have to find picture to put to it. So it actually was, to answer your question, it was a lot more work than the other one. And any point where I was like, oh, I can't just stay on a shot of Chakotay or something, I went, oh, now I need to cut away to something or make another visual or whatever. So it's actually, it was a lot more work because I'm insane.
Well, how long did it take from idea to premiere?
I was going to say, how long do you think it took? I honestly, I remember like the TNG one took a little, like around a week, like solid 7 days, I think, something like that, of morning till night, if I was to stack it together. And I think this one, if I was to stack it together, took maybe 3 weeks, maybe. Because I think, and part of that that has to be factored in is the audio work does take, as I'm sure you can imagine, the audio work takes time. And the audio for this Voyager one was A, longer, and B, it was harder to, because of the way the audio was mixed in the actual episode, it was harder to separate the dialogue from the music. So that took longer. And then even just figuring out, like, there's more sound effects to lay in, there's more music cues to sync up. So, like, everything, even just that step, there were multiple times when I thought, I shouldn't do this. Like, this is just too, this is too labor intensive for what it is. But then that also kind of, sometimes you just want to do stuff just because there is no good reason to do it. And that's why I did it. Yeah.
It's just a bit of fun.
Exactly. And sometimes a bit of fun with too much effort required, which sometimes is kind of cool and fun in and of itself, right?
Absolutely.
No particular other reason to do it. Yeah.
Well, was there anything particularly challenging to animate in this sequence? Obviously, it's longer. There's more music cues and stuff like that, as you've been saying. But anything that stands out at all?
It's really difficult. I mean, I had more. Okay, so I set myself one other goal, which, I mean, did you notice that every single main cast member shows up somewhere in this? Which is not something that happened in. Yes. So that was because I thought if the TNG one was like a celebration of TNG, my love of TNG and TAS, this one's going to be like a love letter to Voyager and TAS. And so it was a little, in retrospect, I kind of wish that you'd seen, like, Troy and Geordi and all those other people from the TNG cast. So this time I thought, I'm going to find a way to fit everybody in there. And so that caricaturing actors into the TAS style is sometimes, like, if I just like took a picture of like whoever and just like did a trace over the picture, it would look wrong. Which I don't know if have you ever like traced drawings or done that kind of thing?
Yeah, little bits.
Yeah. Like when you're doing like a drawing of someone's face or something, just tracing their face doesn't always come out looking like that person. So you'd end up having to tweak stuff like how much bags under the eyes, or like how big the eyes are, or how much the nose, all that kind of thing. So that stuff was tricky, and still kind of trying to filter it through that TAS design scheme, because they had a very specific way of drawing ears and obviously eyes, and even that kind of like, they had a very, because it's like a cartoon, right? So like they drew the female characters differently than they drew the male characters, and like there's all these kinds of idiosyncrasies to it. So kind of striking that right balance was tricky, and then just kind of filling up that 6 minutes. The first pass I did of it, I think there were lots of bits where I was like, oh, it's getting a little boring here. It's getting a little boring here, because an live actor can hold the camera, but the animation can't. This type of animation can't. It's harder for staying on a person's face that long.
Yeah,
exactly. So I ended up like very late in the game drawing an overhead of the Voyager bridge, which took a very long time, and I was trying everything to avoid having to do it, and I was like, I guess I should do it. So yeah, it's a lot of and it's my own fault, Matt. It's my own fault.
Justin, it's another awesome piece. Now that you've got 2 Star Treks under your belt, I have to ask, is DS9 next?
I honestly don't know, and I'm not just saying that. I don't know, because I didn't plan to do 1, and then I didn't plan to do 2, and actually, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but like when I started doing the second one, I did actually start by trying to do a Deep Space Nine episode. I won't tell you which one it was. So this Threshold wasn't my first. Like, I tried several other Trek episodes across like DS9 and Voyager, where like I started to work on them, and then they didn't quite like gel, and I wasn't quite like switched. Like, it took a time to like find something that was like really going to carry me through 3 weeks of working evenings and weekends, and like between my day job and stuff like that kind of stuff. So the answer is I don't know. I don't know. It would be awesome to do another one. I have ideas, Matt, of things I'd like to see, and I'm sure you probably have things that you'd want to see. I would like, but I just haven't. It sounds like overly dramatic to say I haven't recovered from making the Voyager one, but I haven't recovered from making the Voyager one. It was just like that. Like there were points where I was like, I'm stuck in the. I remember being stuck in the transporter room, which is a scene I added, like because again to kind of give it more to look at. So I added that scene in the transporter room where you see them beam down, and I remember being stuck in there for like 3 days, where I was like doing my day job, and then I'd get a little bit done. And I'd go like, I'm too tired, I got to go to bed. And then the next day I'd still be in there, and I'd go like, I just need to get out of the transporter room. So, so I haven't like, it was so much work. And of course, like in order for this to be, I think the product that I wanted it to be, like this little fan love letter, I think it absolutely necessitates that stupid amount of effort. Otherwise it's not worth it. So There was like a hump. And I got over the hump at a certain point, and I was like, okay, now I can finish it. Like, I've done too much work to stop working on it.
Awesome, mate. Well, thanks for beaming into Trekzone, giving us a peek behind the lens, as it were. You're unsure about number 3, but I guarantee that it's coming. It'll be here in a few months. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to chatting to you again.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully we'll have an excuse to talk whatever Trek stuff is. I mean, this is a small sidebar, but friends just came over. And I'm not like a big collector anymore. As you can see, I've got too much tat behind me already. But I was thrilled over the moon that my friends came over, and they brought me this little Eagle Moss Excelsior, which is like the most exciting thing. So I wanted to just highlight this. This is a little bit of Trek in the frame, because I think usually I don't think there's anything else that's Trekky in the background. I think that's it. So. Yeah,
I love it. Justin, thanks for beaming in to Trekzone today, and we will chat again when your 3rd Star Trek fan film comes out.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'll talk to you later. Bye.